my twin brother, Brandon, a hug for me. I love you, Michael, and I'll miss you. I thank you, Janet. Want to say something?
I just wanted to say,
Speak up, sweetheart, speak up. Get close.
ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine. And I just wanted to say I love him so much.
We want to thank you all for loving my brother and supporting our family. Thank you and good night.
With the wrenchingly sad final closing note from Michael Jackson's daughter and some of Michael Jackson's siblings, the service, the celebration has come to an end at the Staples Center here in Los Angeles. As the performers and family leave the stage now after a combination of music and remembrances and some sermons and some politics and some meant for private, some for public consumption. Lester Holt has been here watching with us as the casket is wheeled out of the arena. Lester, interesting program.
Interesting program, and watching his daughter in those last few moments. If nothing about this got you, if you didn't care a thing about Michael Jackson, all of us can relate and understand the grief of a little girl who has lost her father. Clearly the most moving moment. You know, it was a respectful, entertaining, but not over the top show that we've just experienced here, and we've seen Michael Jackson and how he touched people in different ways. I think in many ways Brooke Shields probably humanized him in a way that no one else did. If you just want to talk about just the person, talking about how they laughed together and how they each related to being very young when they were suddenly cast in the limelight. To hear a star like Smokey Robinson talk about a 10-year-old kid who took one of his songs and made it his own, that's pretty dramatic. To see a 12-year-old boy, Shaheen Jaffargoli, the finalist in Britain's Got Talent, this kid to come out who in his short lifetime doesn't remember a lot of Michael Jackson's story, but obviously inspired by it, and to come on, and Michael had wanted him and chosen to be part of his show in London, and now this little boy comes to America. You saw how Michael touched across generations and how people reflected on his life here in so many different ways.
It was interesting. There was the kind of media criticism and public criticism of Michael Jackson was more than just noted in several of the remarks. I wrote down Al Sharpton's comment that got the most boisterous applause. He was stopped by a standing ovation when he said, "Wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. What was strange was what he had to put up with." Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee later said, "People are innocent until proven otherwise under the United States Constitution." Big applause then. All of it noting the aspects of Michael Jackson's life aside from the music that you and I were talking about.
You heard his brother a moment ago, Marlon, talking about maybe they'll leave him alone. Now, there was clearly a sense of casting Michael Jackson as somewhat of a victim, and that'll be for everyone out there to judge whether in fact that's the case, but clearly that was one of the underlying themes of this.
This was a huge kind of lottery today, just being able to attend. So many people applied for tickets. A scant few thousand compared to that applicant pool got into the arena. NBC's Lee Cowan was inside for all of it. Lee, I understand. Oh, I'm sorry. We do not have communications yet with Lee Cowan. However, Nancy Giles has been watching it all with us. She was discussing it with us before and as we got underway. Nancy, I'm curious to hear your take on what we just witnessed.
Well, Brian, I agree with everything that Lester said. I thought it really kind of completed the full gamut of expectations. It was very respectful. It was very much like a memorial, but there was a real sense of the person. And I have to say, just remembering all kinds of memories of Michael Jackson while I was listening to the services. I'm a fifth of 7 children. I'm about Michael Jackson's age, and we grew up loving the Jackson 5. And I was thinking of all the times that my 2 sisters and I would talk about who would sing the different parts in the songs, and there was always this big fight about who was going to be Michael. Michael was the key one that everybody wanted to be. I'm just so struck suddenly by the fact that he was this human being with brothers and sisters, with a family. That unbelievably touching moment at the very end where his daughter just broke down. It just, you can't help but have it tug at your heart. And I thought it could be, this day could go a lot differently, and I thought in the end it was sort of the perfect mix of entertainment
Ever since
and
I was
also
born.
a mourning of the loss of somebody that was indeed, as Berry Gordy said, the greatest entertainer of all time, I do think.
Nancy, it was interesting you just mentioned that because before the broadcast I mentioned the kind of heartbreaking comment by Joe Jackson, daughter Paris's grandfather, Michael's father, that they hadn't been socialized. They hadn't, the Jackson kids hadn't been raised around kids, and yet for that wrenching few moments there, she seemed like a kid.
Utterly normal, very much like a child who's lost her dad. And I mean, we don't know. That's the other thing, Brian, that's so odd about this whole thing. You grow up with somebody in the media like this, and you really do feel like they're part of your family. I mean, there's something about his life that in so many ways paralleled my family's lives and so many other people's lives that are around his age, and you feel like you know him and his family, and you feel like you have a right to your opinions and your suspicions and your love or dislikes and whatnot. It's the strangest feeling to feel like you're looking at somebody that's very familiar and at the same time very much a mystery. And it's been an amazing afternoon to just watch this, really.
Nancy Giles, thank you on behalf of all of us for being along for our coverage. I won't get to personally see you or thank you on this trip, but I appreciate you being along and your observations from this. Also watching it all day, a guy who's covered various aspects of this story as it has unfolded for NBC News correspondent Josh Mankiewicz at our Los Angeles bureau not far from here. And Josh, what struck you watching this today?
Well, you know, there wasn't any rehearsal time. This was an event that was sort of made up on the fly over the last few days, involving a lot of people, a lot of live performances, and, you know, there were a couple of fits and starts, but overall I really thought it came off beautifully. I mean, I think it was exactly the kind of thing that its organizers would have hoped it would have been, and I think that, you know, people watching across the country and across the globe probably saw that. I was also struck by the sort of cohesiveness and single message today of the Jackson family.